what type of stress reactions do you see entrepreneurs having?
I think the largest one there is just burnout from having to to take on all those roles, especially if you're a solopreneur. I work with a lot of them. Um, and also I think with entrepreneurs when you're just getting started, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs are leaders and the leadership road can be a lonely one. And so there's not you have to really seek out ways to have connection with either other leaders or like-minded people.
I create clear thinking and decisive leaders who can amplify their influence. Contact me to find out how I can help you or your organisation. And today our guest is Marie Young. How are you doing, Marie?
Doing well. Thank you so much.
What's your favourite thing?
My favorite thing? Oh my gosh, this is awesome. Right now, so I am in Texas and it's blazing hot in the summer, which is not my favorite thing, but it does give us a lot of beautiful summer blooms and summer blossoms. A tree that's indigenous, I think mostly to the South in America, is the crepe myrtles, and they come in all these colors. They're like white and fuchsia and red and variations on the red. And so right now that's definitely one of my favorite things, just seeing all the flora.
Oh, I mean, there is something life affirming about being in nature, isn't there?
Absolutely, absolutely, especially for a stress management coach. It's
Yes,
very,
tell
very
me more.
important.
Tell me more about you, Marie.
Yes. So, I am a stress management coach and an embodiment teacher. And whenever I say embodiment teacher, people are like, "What is that?" But you know, if we can figure out a way, or I help clients really figure out a way to get more into their bodies, and that does help, slow down the mind. And so much of stress comes from the racing thoughts. We kind of work a little bit, maybe counterintuitively, but through the body to help relax the mind. So that's the embodiment piece. And then the stress management, there's a whole lot of information about stress out there, and I dole that out as needed. But really the techniques I use are relaxation techniques for people to help them get clear, especially entrepreneurs and high achievers, to slow down the mind. And I call them kind of anywhere, any chair, anywhere techniques that they can do. Sometimes, the my background's in yoga and meditation, and those are amazing tools. But, sometimes you don't necessarily have the time, but you have a chair in 5 minutes. It can really, really reset where you're at. And then it just makes it easier to take that next step towards your goals.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mhm.
I understand that one of the things that you do is body informed resiliency. And now that I've managed to say it properly, um, can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, certainly. So that's my prime relaxation technique. And, you hear a lot about resiliency, and psychological resiliency is super important. It's the ability to bounce back from setbacks, from those bumps in the road, right? Super important. But there's it gets lodged in the body a little bit when you have a setback or a stressor. And I'm not talking about sort of larger scale trauma. That is what you would work with a therapist for, right? But just day-to-day stresses, day-to-day, anytime we think, there's this definition of stress that if you feel like you're not going to get what you want, that can sometimes cause a stress, and the cumulative effect of that can lead to a lot of stress in the body. And so, this is again working with the body to let go of any stress that's lodged in there, or to help ease it, let's say. So it's a series of techniques. I've divided it into mouth work, eye work, trunk work, and breath work that again help get the body into the sweet spot in the autonomic nervous system. A lot of what we do daily, we're in the sympathetic nervous system, which is the be alert, be alert to danger. The tiger could come and get us, and it's obviously not as extreme as that, but over time it can kind of feel like that. And that's when, you get into burnout. Um, and, just feeling just like I can't do anymore. So this is just a daily practice, again, that can be done quite quickly, to help get into a regulated nervous state where the parasympathetic nervous system it's a little more activated.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So today I was delivering a masterclass on stress,
Mm.
and what I noticed was that a lot of people work on their reaction to stress
Mm.
without tackling the cause of stress.
Mm-hmm. Like it.
Have you seen that?
I have certainly, when I work with clients, we look at it holistically. So in talking with them about, what's going on in their lives, um, and, some of them do have, quite a, high acute stress situations, let's call it, maybe they're dealing with elder parents or they're raising a teenager or, um, they've lost a job or, there's been a loss. And so help them identify, okay, that, the body is going to have a reaction to that. And that's a normal reaction, the body and the mind. So, then, we break that down and then there's sort of this prescription that I give them on some tools that I think will help them. But I think you're right. Like we do need to look at what's causing stress. And then I think that's also kind of where leadership comes in, like personal responsibility and leadership. Okay, because if a lot of times I see stress, or I know that stress comes from being disconnected from really our authentic selves. Like, if you're a dancer and you're working in an accountancy firm, with a hard driving boss, more than likely that's going to cause you stress because it is so different from who you are. And the body and form resiliency and some of the other techniques that I have created are really about reconnection to that self, to that, that kind of that intuitive self, that voice inside your head that says, yeah, this is what I really want to do. This is my purpose. And then once you know that, like if you're that dancer, you can be like, okay, well, maybe I have to work at this firm to pay the bills, but it's not who I am because I've reconnected to who I am. And so I can take those steps that I need to express that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right then, what? So I know that you work with entrepreneurs. What type of stress reactions do you see entrepreneurs having?
I think the largest one there is just burnout from having to to take on all those roles, especially if you're a solopreneur. I work with a lot of them. Um, and also, I think with entrepreneurs, when you're just getting started, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs are leaders, and the leadership road can be a lonely one. And so there's not, you have to really seek out ways to have connection with either other leaders or like-minded people. So in talking with clients, it's like, okay, is this what's going on for you? And, and, helping them sort of get clear on what's causing, that stress or that disconnect. I'm not sure if that answered your question, but follow up question, please. I may have
Yeah, I
gotten caught
know.
up on the disconnection piece, but that's a huge piece of my work. It's like, oh, the connectedness to self, to others, to like-minded people, to also just the acknowledgement that entrepreneurship and it is so vital, no matter what the outcome is, and certainly we want good outcomes. Just if someone has that desire to do that, helping them get clear on is that really their desire, or is it that they just don't want to work for someone else, which is legitimate. It just kind of helps them get. We do a lot on intake and onboarding about their kind of purpose and how do you see your purpose. And again, my work has to do with reconnecting to self, which leads to a greater idea of purpose.
So thank you. I can imagine people sitting there listening and going, reconnecting to yourself. That sounds really woo-woo.
Was thinking you might say that. Yeah, it's inspired by some woo, but I think it has a real practical impact. And I think and even if it is like reconnecting to that sense that you're going to be okay, or it's all going to turn out okay, so that you can move forward. Uh, my personal viewpoint is that while the age we live in is so great because there's so many opportunities, for me, I was facing a lot of burnout because there was just so much to choose from, so much to think about. And I need that time to kind of go inward. So that's like the reconnecting with self. And, a lot of people will do this with exercise, and, or meditation or yoga. It's just that sense of, okay, I can take a moments out of my day. We were speaking about nature. It's kind of like bringing nature inward. It's teaching how to do that maybe when you can't get to nature, because I think for most people, like, sure, they go on holiday, right? And they're at the beach and they feel great and they feel like, oh, they get all these great ideas, or they get a sense of their own personal empowerment. And then they take that back home with them, and that's great. But over time, that can get worn down just with the day-to-day responsibilities that we have. So the reconnection to self really is like just that sense of, okay, I'm going to spend some time relaxing and trying to perhaps recreate the feelings I feel, when I'm on vacation, or the feelings I feel when I'm in nature, or and my work just kind of I feel like my techniques um, can speed up that process.
Hmm. Okay. So talking about techniques, is there some techniques that you can share with us?
Certainly, certainly. So I think the one of the sort of easiest or simplest and most practical is diaphragmatic breathing.
Hmm.
So interesting facts about the breath. A lot of times, like when you're stressed, people are like, take a deep breath, and or in yoga classes, I've heard this a lot. And even, in meditation, they'll say like, take deep belly breaths. And that's certainly important, but basically the lungs are kind of roughly, you can kind of look at them in three different sections. There's the nipple to the clavicle, the nipple to the belly, and then under the belly. Um, in terms of, I shouldn't say the lungs, just sort of the breathe, where kind of breath takes place, let's say. Um, Most of the time we're breathing in the upper chest, and that is directly related to keeping us kind of in the sympathetic nervous system, that alert state. It has a great place. It's just that over time, if we do it too much, it can lead to feelings of anxiousness. A lot of people are like, okay, I'm getting my goals done, everything's fine, but I feel kind of anxious about it. Um, and where we a good sort of antidote to that is when you breathe with the diaphragm, and I can walk you through it if you like. The diaphragm's a muscle, and what it does is it allows for the most air and oxygen to get into your lungs. And it allows you to breathe from, or you're breathing more in the nipple to the navel area. And it has a direct effect on the autonomic nervous system, and it helps to regulate. So it kind of brings it into balance. So if you're in a sympathetic state and you're anxious, it helps relieve that a little bit. And if you're in maybe too much parasympathetic, which is that rest and digest, then it can help get you into the more, you know, regulated alert state. So it really is kind of a miracle breath. Would you like me to walk you through it, walk the users through it? We can do a little 2-minute thing.
Yeah, I think that would be great because I noticed today when I was mentioning it in the masterclass, there were quite a few people who didn't know what I meant. So yeah, please do walk us through it.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so just sit in a chair as you would sit, feet on the floor and spine erect but not rigid. And take your hands and place your thumbs on your back body and find the lower, like the lowest rib you can find. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just feel in the back there. And place the thumb there, and then take your other 4 fingers, there are the 4, and wrap them around the front. And this is like your hands are on your hips, but kind of way up. And then as you inhale, what you want to feel is a flare. So it's a flaring out on the inhale. So you inhale and you feel your hands go out and up a little bit. And then as you exhale, they kind of fall back in. So close your eyes if you haven't already. And then you inhale, feeling that flare, that fanning out and up. And it can be subtle. And then exhale. And then inhale. And with each one, see if you can breathe a little bit. Inhale a little bit more. Exhale whenever you're ready. You can drop your hands if you've gotten the motion, the movement, but if you want to keep them there, you can. So that's breathing with the diaphragm. It's that fanning out of the ribs, that flaring out. And it may feel a little odd if you're not used to it. And I always say, if you're like, oh, because the breath can bring up a lot of stuff doing breath work. So if it's too much, just go back and breathe normally. That's usually in that upper chest area. But throughout the day, if you can, just finding that motion first with your hands and inhaling out and up and exhaling, let it just fall back in. So just a couple more here. Really feeling that in the back as well. The back is 60% lung. So it starts, at back of the collarbones. The lungs attach there and go way down past the rib cage. So if you can feel your back filling up with air and oxygen, that's a really good thing. And then just release this, breathe normally. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Yeah, so that's diaphragmatic breathing, and that on its own, you know, even if you set a timer, do that 5 minutes a day, the effect on the mind is, you know, pretty startling, I think. And I hear that from clients. They're, you know, that's usually where I start because, like you said, I do enjoy some woo. There's a woo aspect to my work because my background's in yoga and meditation. But, you know, we live in a non-woo world, and so I wanna give clients a practical way to feel as good in their body as they can, as quickly as they can, and boy, diaphragmatic breathing really gets them there.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's quite interesting because I think there are so many ways to breathe
Mhm,
in different ways, and I would definitely encourage the listeners to look at those type of meditative ways of doing things.
mhm,
So
absolutely.
before we end, though, because this is a great exercise, and I'm sure people are going to go straight away and start practicing them. Um,
Cool.
I'm sorry. So, what else would you like to share for those entrepreneurs that are feeling stress and not sure what to do next?
I think the biggest thing is just to experiment with taking time to do those, you know, reconnection exercises or body-based exercises, the diaphragmatic breathing.
Hmm.
Um, I you know, Body Informed Resiliency is available on my website. There's a lot of tools there. Um, you know, it's finding a way to go inward in just in terms of shutting out a lot of the noise that does come at us as entrepreneurs. There's so much exciting stuff out there. There's so much to learn, but I think what's also important is to balance that in part with these techniques and exercises that allow you to find some semblance of peace or, you know, I call it reconnection. You know, whatever that is for you, it's vital. And a lot of people get it through exercise, and exercise is certainly important, but you know, intention is so much of, you know, success in life and having that intention. And so really setting an intention or being intentional about, look, I'm just going to sit here and breathe and be with myself, spend time just with myself, i.e. kind of my being. But you know, or you can just say self, just to, you know, kind of see what comes up. The good thing about the diaphragmatic breath is they have a focus. You know, if the mind starts wandering back to the to-do list, which inevitably it will, you know, the focus is that, you know, feeling into their lungs and letting the lungs flare out and come back in. And if they bring the focus back to that pretty quickly, the mind will settle down. And then you're just allowing your body to reset into a non-stress state because so much of what we do, there's a little bit of that sympathetic piece to it. And again, you know, you're kind of going through your day and you're like, why do I feel so stressed? And usually it's because you haven't intentionally set aside time to just breathe or do exercises that allow you to just be, you know, like there's that be, do, have, you know, we put the do first, oftentimes. And really my approach is let's start with the be, then we know the actions we want to take, and then we have the results, you know, that we want. So it's that be piece that I think so often is missing.
Brilliant. That's
Mhm.
fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Um, okay, Marie, that was great. Really enjoyed the exercise and listening to you explain from your perspective how stress can impact entrepreneurs and what they can do about it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all that you do. I really have enjoyed reading your website, and I'll definitely check out further episodes of the podcast.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you out there for tuning into the Maverick Paradox podcast. I am Judith Germain, your host, and I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation.
The Maverick Paradox Magazine. The Maverick Paradox Magazine is for the pathologically curious. Written by a swagger of socialized mavericks who are divergent thinkers, the magazine tackles the biggest issues affecting maverick leaders today. You might be a business owner or a leader within an organization who wants to have your thinking challenged, to be exposed to a diversity of thought, or to learn from diverse experts in their fields. If so, the Maverick Paradox Magazine is for you. Join the swagger at themaverickparadox.com and engage in the conversation.